Ladies and gentlemen, we will begin our program shortly. We hope everyone enjoys their time while watching the premiere, either with your friends or family. Secondly, we invite everyone to leave a review in the comment section. The event will commence on 3, 2, 1.
Good evening to everyone who is watching in the comfort of their home right now. It is such a pleasure to have you on this blessed evening. I am Shami Zakwan, also known as Tony. Alongside me is a very good friend of mine.
Hello everyone, I'm Faridatul Najwa aka Fari, and we will be your host for this long-awaited grand premiere of Digital Graphic Story from Year 3 TESL students on the theme of setting aside racism among Malaysians.
As we all know, Malaysia is a multiracial, multicultural, and multi religion country with a population of about 20 million people who practice various religions. However, there are a few issues related to racism and religion that have happened in the past as well as in the present.
And today we will be watching how our Year 3 TESL students deliver the message of racism into their graphic stories. To be frank, I'm really excited about our event and I hope that every one of you feel the same as well. On the first day of this event, we will be having 3 amazing groups to showcase their production to all of us, and everyone will have a chance to support their groups by using our voting system.
Yes, Fari. The audience can vote based on a few categories we have, but before I explain more about that, let's welcome our most respected Chief Advisor of the event, Dr. Azlina Abdul Aziz, who is also a senior lecturer at the Center of Innovation in Teaching and Learning from the Faculty of Education, UKM, to deliver her opening speech. The stage is all yours, Dr. Azlina.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sejahtera and a very good evening to all. I'm Dr. Azlina Abdul Aziz, a literature in English lecturer and the instructor to the course Literary Production in a Digital Age at the Faculty of Education, the National University of Malaysia, or UKM. Welcome to our public viewing of digital graphic stories based on the theme of racism, which will showcase 7 creative graphic short stories presented by the Year 3 TESL undergraduate students from the Faculty of Education, UKM. In tonight and tomorrow night's online premiere, we'll watch stories on issues related to race and racism in Malaysian contexts. This course project was conceived to sensitize student teachers on issues of racism and their role in developing social cohesion among Malaysians. As educators, we need to equip ourselves with the knowledge on recognizing patterns of racism, racial stereotyping, and to think of how best to educate pupils about issues of racism so they may develop empathy for the victims of racial abuse and discrimination who may be their own family members, friends, and even classmates. As Malaysia moves into an endemic stage of COVID-19 and the movements are no longer restricted, we still need to practice social distancing, and sharing physical space for 40 to 50 students may not be safe just yet. This semester, much like the previous semesters for the last 2 years, have seen our classes remaining online still. So in order to connect with you, the public, we'll bring you this online premiere via YouTube. The students in this course face considerable challenges in working collaboratively on this big project, whilst being in different locations in Malaysia. Their ability to produce these creative works is by no means a small feat, so I'd like to congratulate the Year 3 TESL undergraduate students on your achievement in planning, conceiving, creating, and producing these graphic stories. Well done. I would also like to express my deep appreciation to our 2 special judges, Mr. Ahmad Sofyan Mazilan, a VFX artist, and Mr. Ruben Singham, film editor of the animation Agent Ali, for accepting our invitation to judge these digital graphic stories. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you as viewers will watch the graphic stories for the next 2 nights and ruminate on the gravity of this issue whilst being safe and secure in the comfort of your homes. Stay safe and happy viewing, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Azlina Abdul Aziz, for the opening speech. Such an inspiring speech from a lovely lecturer of ours. With this, the premiere of Year 3 TESL students digital graphic stories have officially begun. For the evaluation of every production, we are pleased to have caliber judges with us for this event. I want everyone to welcome Mr. Ahmad Sufyan Mazilan, a visual effect artist who is an alumni from Multimedia University in animations and visual effects. Welcome aboard, Mr. Sufyan.
Next, we have Mr. Ruben Singham, film editor of the famous animated series Agent Ali, also an alumni from Multimedia University in Cinematic Arts. I have to say, Mr. Ruben, I really enjoy watching Agent Ali despite being an adult.
I agree with you, Fari. The animation and plot of the story is so captivating. Mr. Ruben, I hope you will enjoy watching how Year 3 TESL students execute their ideas into graphic stories. Before starting with our first group of Day 1, I would like to explain about the categories that the audience can vote for. There are 4 categories, which are Best Graphic Design, Best Voiced Over, Best Poster, and the Best Sound Design. For the Best Graphic Design category, it focuses on the design of the characters and how the comic is drawn. Next, for the Best Voiced Over, it is highlighting the ability of the voiceover to bring the main character to life or create an astounding narration. For the Best Sound Design, it is focusing on the background music, effects, and quality. Lastly, for the Best Poster, the audience can vote for posters with the best design. Don't forget to vote based on these categories, okay? Without further ado, let's have The Fire of Harmony from Mangak Lauder Entertainment. Any idea what this graphic story is about, Fari?
It is a story about Mr. Kapoor, an Indian lawyer who just moved into an all-Chinese neighborhood along with his family members. However, their arrival is not welcomed by one of their neighbors, and life has been a roller coaster for these two families after a series of events which changed their lives together. How will life be for these two men in the suburbs? We'll see.
It was a bright, peaceful day in Sunset Park, an all-Chinese neighborhood located in the west suburb. The birds were singing on the trees as planes lined up the sky overhead. The children of the neighborhood are happily playing in the playground while being watched by their parents. Then, an emerald green car, followed by 2 big lorries, were seen driving to the only empty house at the end of the third lane of the neighborhood.
Alright, here we are everyone. Looks like we have arrived. Say hello to our new beautiful home,
said Mr. Peter Kapoor to his family members, who happened to have just arrived at their new home in the neighborhood. Mr. Peter Kapoor, who is a lawyer, and his family members seemed very delighted to move to their new home. So did some neighbors who saw that event, who then immediately gave them a warm welcome as part of the happy neighborhood, except for one of them, Mr. Chuang Lee, whose house is just across the street from Mr. Peter Kapoor's house. A disgusted look emerged on his face while he was tending his bonsai trees in his lawn after Mr. Peter Kapoor introduced himself to him.
Good morning, mister. How are you? I am Peter Kapoor. I just moved here with my family. Looks like we are neighbors now. By the way, beautiful trees you got there. Hoo-hoo,
said Mr. Peter Kapoor while extending his hand out to shake with Mr. Chuang Lee.
How many months you and your family members are going to rent here? Huh?
asked Mr. Chuang Li without even answering Mr. Peter Kapoor's question. Mr. Peter Kapoor went speechless for a second after being asked the question, which he never saw coming. He then told Mr. Chuang Li that the house he and his family members just moved in will be his new forever home. Judging by the look on Mr. Chuang Li's face, he seemed like he does not like the fact that Mr. Peter Kapoor will stay in that neighborhood for a long period of time. The conversation turned to be quite awkward, which makes Mr. Peter Kapoor excuse himself and continue with moving all his stuff into his new house, while Mr. Chuang Li stood there still with a sour face.
How come he is able to afford to move here, huh? Unbelievable. I mean, look at them. They are also Indians.
Mr. Chuang Li said to his wife, Mrs. Maria Li, in the kitchen while having dinner with his family. Mrs. Maria Li was shocked after hearing the words that just came out from his husband and stopped eating momentarily. Mr. Chuang Li seemed to be living by the stereotype of only rich Chinese people like him are able to buy luxurious houses, just like the one he is living in. What was being said by Mr. Chuang Li was so unacceptable that it left her wife curious about the reason her husband would say such words to their new neighbor, since she had never heard it said by him before. Mr. Chuang Li is a nice guy to Mrs. Maria Li all this time. However, that day, he reminds her of someone whom she used to know.
Next month is our Zuyu's birthday party, right? We can invite our new neighbor as well,
said Mrs. Maria Li, who would like to have their new neighbors at the birthday party of their daughter, Zuyu Irene Li.
Huh? Mayman? No way. They just moved here and we don't really know that well. Bo. No. We just invite the other neighbors and just like we planned before. Huh?
Mr. Chuang Li replied with a loud voice. He then left the kitchen with the unfinished food and went to his room. Again, Mrs. Maria Li is still in denial with the change of attitude shown by his husband. The next day, Mr. Chuang Li was washing his brand new Mercedes-Benz in front of his house. While carefully doing so, he saw something that irritated his sight and was very unpleasant to him. He saw his beloved son, Chen Hong Li, was happily having a laugh with Priyanka Kapoor, Mr. Peter Kapoor's beautiful daughter, at the bench located in between his house and Mr. Peter's. Filled with anger, Mr. Chuang Li threw away the water hose he was using to wash his car, grasped Cheng's hand, then took him inside his gate, separating Cheng and Priyanka.
I don't like you talking to that girl again. You understand?
The Chuang shouted into Cheng's face with his hand still holding his son's hand till it left a reddish mark. Astounded and clueless as he was, Cheng did not utter a word then, just ran away into his room. Seeing that awful thing happen to his son, Mrs. Maria immediately rushed to her husband in disbelief.
Do you even know what you have done? They are just having fun with our neighbor. What is wrong with you?
Mrs. Maria expressed her annoyance towards her husband.
I just don't like it. Don't you understand?
He replied with a fading tone and left to continue washing his brand new car. The thing that happened the other day was quite frustrating to Mr. Chuang, but it did not cross a red line in his mind. This brought to an incident that finally made Mr. Chuang lose his temper. It was a bright evening, where all the kids in the neighborhood were playing, just like every kid in the world likes to do. Shah Rukh Kapoor, a young lovely boy who is the youngest son of Mr. Peter Kapoor, was playing with a football all by himself while waiting for his friends to arrive. He repeatedly kicked and threw the ball, at the same time was having one of the most enjoyable times of his childhood, until he mistakenly kicked the ball a little bit too hard. It subsequently went into Mr. Chuang's lawn and hit one of his bonsai tree vases, which broke into pieces on the floor. Coincidentally, Mr. Chuang, who was just meters away from his home, going back from a meeting with his friends at a cafe in the city, saw that incident, which made his blood go through the roof. After seeing what had happened to his expensive, rare, valuable bonsai tree and vase, he became too stunned to speak. Went out of his car and slammed his car door hard. Things went from bad to worse for Shah Rukh as Mr. Chuang charged towards him, pulled him by his shirt until they met eye to eye. Then Mr. Chuang shouted in his innocent face,
Do you know how expensive this tree is, Junanai? You silly boy. Your parents probably can't even afford to buy one.
Mr. Chuang dragged Shah Rukh to Mr. Peter's doorstep furiously that Shah Rukh's shirt teared up a bit at the collar. Bam, bam, bam. Mr. Chuang knocked on the door as hard as he could since he was very angry with what had happened to his precious bonsai tree. Startled by the loud door knock, Mr. Peter Kapoor immediately scurried to the door and opened it. Once the door was opened wide enough, Mr. Chuang, not in the right mind, threw Shah Rukh into the house. Luckily, Mr. Peter just managed to catch his son before he almost fell to the floor. That poor boy was so traumatized, he began to cry in his father's embrace that left a spot of his tears on his father's shirt.
Chuang! Chuang! How could you do this to my son? What did he even do to you?
Mr. Peter threw him that question, full of confusion.
You ask your dull-witted child what happened, Ji boy. Look at what he has done to my bonsai tree and my face.
Mr. Chuang replied with intense exasperation after Shah Rukh's action really got on his nerves.
Mr. Chuang, I really am sorry for what my son has done. It must be an accident. How much? I will pay for that. Again, I am truly sorry, Chuang.
Realizing his son's unfortunate mistake, Mr. Peter offered a sincere apology and compensation over his son's wrongdoing. Arrogantly, Mr. Chuang instantly replied,
Enough. People like you, beggarly looking people like you, would even have that much money to pay for my tree.
Without further ado, Mr. Chuang stepped away from Mr. Peter's house, and while walking, he murmured a few racist remarks. Even though it was almost inaudible, Mr. Peter could still hear it. Nonetheless, as a patient and calm person, he decided to do nothing but ignore it and kept his composure. The series of unfortunate events that occurred between the two families have somewhat kept them from getting in touch for quite a long while, until one fateful day, Zuyu's Irene Lee's birthday. The youngest daughter of Mr. Chuang Lee marked her 11th birthday with joy, and she was the happiest person on that day. On that night, Mr. Chuang Lee's family and other invited neighbors were going to a birthday party of Zuyu Irene Lee, organized by Mr. Chuang Lee himself, as a special ceremony for his daughter at a fully booked restaurant in the city. They were having a lot of fun during the party. Meanwhile, at Sunset Park neighborhood, only Mr. Peter Kapoor and his family were at home, since The other neighbors had been invited to Zuyu's birthday party. Without feeling left out a bit, Mr. Peter and his family were having dinner, deliciously served and cooked by Mrs. Deepika Kapoor, Mr. Peter Kapoor's beautiful wife. They were enjoying their dinner so much until some acrid smell penetrated their noses. It was smoke that came into their house through the windows, but they did not yet realize where the smoke came from.
Apa? Fire!
Shah Rukh Kapoor shouted while putting his index finger to the window. Mr. Peter walked slowly to the window to take a look. Then he saw something dreadful. It was Mr. Chuang's house on fire. Smoke was everywhere, that the view became gradually limited, while fire was flaming out of some of the house windows.
Grab the phone! Grab the phone!
Mr. Peter instructed his wife to call the fire department and also Mr. Chuang to inform them about this tragic incident. To avoid things from becoming severely worse, Mr. Peter and his family members tried using buckets of water to extinguish some of the fire from spreading, while waiting for the firemen to arrive. Moments later, a fire truck showed up at the location and they were working very hard to extinguish the fire. After almost half an hour, they successfully extinguished the fire, and at the same time, Mr. Chuang and his family just came home from the party. He went speechless and contemplated on what had happened to his house. Mr. Chuang was lucky enough because Mr. Peter was at home this time his house was on fire, and only half of his house was damaged by the fire. But still, that eye-opening incident truly took Mr. Chuang Lee by surprise. Everyone makes mistakes, so does Mr. Chuang. The realization really hit him after what has happened to him.
Peter, I don't know how to put this into words, but thank you so much for your help. I can't imagine what will happen if you were not here.
Mr. Chuang could not describe how fortunate and thankful he was for Mr. Peter's act of kindness.
All the things that happened before, I really want to apologize. I hope you can forgive me, Peter.
Mr. Chuang also offered his apology to Mr. Peter for not being a nice neighbor to him all this time.
No worries. We are neighbors, right, Chuang? I don't really take that personally at all. We are all good, okay, Mr. Chuang? No worries.
With an open heart, Mr. Peter accepted the apology. What a kind-hearted person he was. As another act of kindness, Mr. Peter gladly offered Mr. Chuang a temporary stay at his previous house while waiting for the reconstruction of Mr. Chuang's house to completely finish. That sympathetic gesture from Mr. Peter made Mr. Chuang more thankful than he had ever been. In spite of the unpleasant events that fell upon Mr. Peter, he would still be able to offer his helping hand, albeit it was for the person who used to be uncharitable to him. Beginning from that point onwards, they eventually became some of the best neighbors in Sunset Park. Everything that happens must have its own reason. Same goes to Mr. Chuang Lee. The reason why he was racist towards Indians was due to his dark, vexatious past. As a businessman, he had dealt with many clients in his business journey. However, that did not exclude him from encountering betrayals from them. The bitter truth was, all of the clients that have betrayed him before were of Indian race, which had become the plausible motive for him to act disgustingly racist towards every Indian person he met after. In this world, unity is achievable only by learning to unite in spite of differences, rather than insisting on unity without differences. For their total eradication is an impossibility. The secret of attaining peace in life is tolerance of disturbance of the peace.
I truly enjoy our opening digital graphic story for tonight. Such an eye-opening storyline.
I totally agree with you, Tony. What a way to start our event. Good job, Manga Aloud Entertainment. For the next video, we shall see the story of a mouse deer named Oscar.
Wow, a very unique name for an animal, don't you think? We usually hear the sang kancil, but today we will see Oscar, who is determined to find a job for himself in a new city called Aidensville. Aidensville City is a place where animals live together in harmony and every animal is treated the same. However, Oscar will learn that Aidensville is not as extraordinary as what he might have thought all this time.
From the production of Not Zootopia, we present to you The Better Place.
I wonder if this is still the right way to the city. Maybe I can ask the cows over there for directions, just in case. Hello there, sir.
Hello, young fella. Do you want to buy some of our finest cabbages?
Oh, no, sir. I actually wanted to ask you about the directions to Aidensville City. Is this road still there?
Yes, mister. You are right on track. Just walk up ahead for another 15 minutes and you'll be there.
Exactly like my son said.
That's wonderful. I was walking for so long. I was worried that I might be going the wrong way. I'm actually from Opensaw Village and I came here hoping to get a job.
Wow, that's a pretty long journey just for a job.
Yeah, most of our folks in Opensaw are farmers and there's not that many shops and stores open there. I heard Aidensville City has a lot of job opportunities.
Unless you're a predator.
What do you mean?
Gosh, mister. You really don't know anything about Aidensville, huh?
What my son is trying to say is that our city has a history between the predators and the prey. These two breeds of animals are not that friendly among each other. The predators such as the lions, the leopards, the monkeys and many more were the original inhabitants of the land. Slowly, they learned to coexist with one another and build Aidensville City together. Only afterwards the prey migrated to Aidensville and expanded the city.
Unfortunately, since we were the outsiders, we've never felt welcome. Regardless how long we've stayed here, no matter what we do, the predators will always look down on us and treat us differently.
Well, I must say that I'm surprised by this news, because in my village the predators and prey live in harmony together. Thank you so much, sir and Junior. I think I'll just go first to the city now.
Good luck, mister. You're going to need it.
Hey, you. I bet you want what we're having right now, don't you?
Excuse me?
Dad, what are you doing? Just leave her be.
Just a second, alright, honey? Hey, Birdie. I apologize for what I said. I know it's rude. That was rude, wasn't it?
It's okay, sir. You don't have...
I'm not finished. Now then, if I'm so rude to you, and you definitely don't like it, here's a question for you. Why don't you, just fly away from the city?
Goodness, Dad, I can't believe you said that.
That never gets old. We can go now. You praise are all the same. Can't even take a joke.
Ooh, if only I had just tell that old man off. The audacity of him.
Excuse me, is that the Marigold restaurant?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Alright then. Thank you.
Wait, is that deer seriously going into that restaurant? Doesn't he know that restaurant is for predators only?
Hello, sir. My name is Oscar, and I'm here for the job interview at this restaurant as the assistant manager.
Say that again? You're here for a job interview? Hey, flunky! Come over here really quick.
What? What are you smiling about?
Listen to the mouse, dear. Tell him again what you just said to me.
I'm here for the interview as the assistant manager.
I have not laughed like that in ages. Kid, look around. Do you see any praise or any of your kind working here? In fact, do you see any prey customers in this place? Now, if I file a complaint to the police, I wonder whose side they're going to believe.
Alright, that's unnecessary. I get it, that this is your turf, but you don't have to talk to us like that.
It's okay. Let's just leave before we get into more trouble.
Yeah, better do what she tells you to, kid.
Miss, wait. I'm sorry that they said something like that about you, and I'm sorry that I made the situation worse.
It's okay. It's not your fault. It happens. They always like to pick a fight and talk down on me just because I'm a prey.
Why don't you just fight back or stand up for yourself?
You heard him, right? It's my words against them. I will never win. The predators basically own this city.
So that's it? You're just going to let the predators do whatever they want? That's not right. You can't let them treat you like this.
But not all of them are bad. Among all of the bad ones, there are some good ones too.
How can you be so sure?
Because I'm not like them. I'm sorry for what my dad said, and for those two idiots just now. I wish I could do something about it.
You two are friends?
More like best friends, but we keep it a secret.
Maybe your friendship with Ava could change the perspective between the predators and the prey. If they can see how well you get along together, maybe they will realize both breeds are not that different after all.
No!
Wait, that voice! I think I recognize who it is.
Where do you think you are, Pipsqueak? Don't you know that this place is exclusively made for the predators only? Are you trying to make my customers leave?
But we're just passing by the restaurant. That's all, mister. Please, don't do that to our vegetables.
Hey! That's a little too much, don't you think?
Look who came back to be the hero.
You're just being a bully. Just because they are praised doesn't give you the right to treat them like this. Besides, aren't you a prey too?
Watch your mouth.
What's all the ruckus about?
Master Koda!
What's this? All that yapping? Coming from that little mouse deer?
I have a name. It's Oscar. You know what, Mr. Koda? When I look around this restaurant, yeah, I can see that all of you are predators. But do you want to know what else that I saw? I saw that this city is filled with praise. You're just scared of us all, the praise. Why? Because we outnumber you. You're scared that all of us will stand up against you. You act almighty and superior, but deep down you know, if we rise up together, you won't be able to be at the top anymore.
Is that so? The way I see it, you will always be beneath us, together or not. You're weak, pathetic, always have been, always will be, just like now.
Look around. You still think they are afraid of you?
Well then, I guess we just have to show them who's the one in control here in this city.
Whoa! Watch your tiger paws.
Since when are you such a softie for the pitiful weakling praise?
Since you and your goons started to hurt these animals.
Don't try to act innocent and kind all of a sudden. I know you, Hughes. You don't care for these peasants. You would always use brute force and violence to put these animals right in their place.
That was a long time ago. I don't do that anymore. Ever since I've partnered up with Officer Roy, I've changed. So should this city. From this day forward, no more violence or any sort of mistreatment among both predators or preys. It will count as harassment or assault, and there will be heavy consequences to those who do such things.
You're not going to get away with this. The other predators, they won't like this. You do know that, right?
I guess we just have to find out and see.
Come on, you two. Get back to work.
You okay there?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm alright. I didn't even know I was capable of doing that in the first place. I guess I was just following my instinct.
If that's the case, we need more animals with that kind of instinct. It won't be easy, but I believe slowly the animals in this city will try to tolerate and coexist with one another without any prejudice or discrimination.
I hope that too, officer. At the end of the day, we are all still animals. We should always help each other out and live peacefully together. I don't think I need to describe how amazing that was, do I? The voice actor for Oscar truly did a great job. Just by hearing the voice, we can tell how charismatic that guy is, yeah?
Of course he did. But wasn't it you who acted as Oscar, Tony? Well, before Tony starts praising himself even more, let us move to the next group. Next, we are going to take a trip down the memory lane with the 13-year-old girl Divya. From accepting a new mother in her life to dealing with a teacher at school, her life is definitely upside down at the moment.
A trip down memory lane. Sounds interesting. Well, for our last video tonight, we bring to you from the production of 5A's Entertainment the graphic story entitled Gardenia. Sungguh enak dimakan begitu saja. Enjoy.
Taking a step into this same old house has never been the same. Such a sight for sore eyes and troubled hearts. 13 years ago, father found his other half after mom's death, which was definitely the hardest pill to swallow. Honestly, I didn't think that curry and dumplings were a match from heaven. It's a total mess. Our mama and the rest of the family were quite against the relationship due to cultural differences. And I, too, was not quite sure if I could wear this smile for long, but father's happiness matters the most. Well, nevertheless, despite those hurdles, their love was definitely as tough as the Great Wall. Just like how Aurangzeb imprisoned Shah Jahan, I once tried to ruin this beautiful Taj Mahal that father had built. My school held an open day where parents come to check on our academic results. I could see every single friend of mine smiling as their parents reached their hands to them. But not me. I purposely didn't tell Auntie May about it. Father wasn't around at that time and I just couldn't bother.
Divya! When will your parents come ni?
My father is not here. I'm not sure about...
Your white small-eyed mum ke? Don't bother to wait lah, Divya. She is probably too ashamed of having a new brown stepdaughter like you. I'm just kidding tau. Don't take it personal, Divya.
I was bawling my eyes out when I bumped into Jackson on my way to the ladies.
Divya, what's with the tears?
I never asked to be born as a brown. Am I that ugly?
What's with the remark? Skin color doesn't define beauty. Hey, what's wrong?
Cikgu Ani just provoked me about my skin and my family. Oh. I have never felt this humiliated and disrespected ever before.
OMG.
And just like that, my dignity was stepped on by someone who was supposed to embrace every difference in this multiracial country. A teacher. Auntie May was someone who takes care of her health very well. The scent of her boiling the herbs would always linger around. She would always tell me to drink the Chinese herbs to cast away the fatigue I got from school. You always ask me to drink this odd and bitter tea. Are you expecting me to be as white as you?
Divya, honey, what are you talking about?
You are not my mom. Stop acting like one. I am and never will be living to expectation. Us as a real daughter and mother? Oh God, come on, you don't even dream. We have barely talked ever since that day. Only nods and several yes throughout our conversation. Father did notice, but I just couldn't care less. Jackson lived just around my neighborhood and he's always been my go-to. I haven't talked to her yet and it somehow suffocates me to see her around.
Hey, don't say like that. She's still an adult. Someone so dear to your father anyways.
Then what about me? Am I not his only daughter though? Shouldn't things be fair on my side too?
Sure, your father loves you dearly, Divya. At this moment, you're just full of anger and the rage inside shouldn't seem to come down anytime soon. Try to accept things, Divya. It takes mere understanding to make things okay.
And that's on having a shoulder to lie on. My Jackson.
Giddy, has Cikgu Ani always been skeptical about interracial marriage? I mean, you must know her better since you've worked with her for over a decade now.
What do you mean, my son?
Do you remember Divya from 5 Tulips? Cikgu Ani is her homeroom teacher during our last open day. She kind of insulted Divya and her family.
Are you being serious, Jackson? What has happened?
Well, she told Divya that her stepmom was ashamed of having a brown daughter. She also left other racist remarks that day.
That is very unacceptable and unethical. She is a teacher, for goodness sake. I knew that she always had that side of her, but this is just too much of her.
And yeah, Divya has taken it really personal and she's not on good terms with her stepmom.
Goodness gracious, I will bring this matter to our principal, Cikgu Aming, tomorrow.
Sir Wang did really bring the matter to my principal. He also called Father and Auntie May to discuss further regarding this matter. Well, Cikgu Ani was around too. I remember Father and Auntie May were very shocked upon hearing it, with frowning faces on them. Later that night, we kind of sorted things out.
Divya, honey, is that why you are behaving that way the other day? Why didn't you tell me and Father about this?
I guess I was too carried away. I'm so sorry, Mom. That was my first time calling her Mom and our first hug ever since she joined us. Cikgu Ani? Well, Cikgu Ami had scolded her in front of the other teachers in their meeting. I hope she learned her lesson. And I carefully put our family portrait into the box. I wandered around the house for the last time, reminiscing and trying my best to recall everything that has happened here. Sure, it was a bittersweet memory, but come to think of it again, it is a memory that made us whole, together. But this house doesn't feel like home anymore.
I love how the storyline is so much more than the title.
That's true, Farid. They say don't judge a book by its cover. Such an amazing pace from 5A's Entertainment. Good job. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the premiere for tonight. I must admit, it amazes me to see the hard work that the students have poured into their digital graphic stories. Truly, truly talented future teachers.
Special thanks to Dr. Azlina, Mr. Sufyan, and Mr. Ruben for their willingness to join us for this event today. However, today is not the end of the event.
Want to know which group is presenting tomorrow? Stay tuned and we will see you tomorrow at the same time and place for the digital graphic story premiere of Year 3 TESL students. Thank you and don't forget to stay safe, folks. Bye bye.